Hi everybody and welcome to our Heel Heat TNA show for the week. My name is George Coles. This is my tag team partner, Rocky Johnson.
Soul Man, Rocky Johnson. Gary Rhodes, everybody. Thanks, Tony Ellis.
Anyway.
Shut up, Tony.
Anyway.
We got white women over here.
Wouldn't it be Samoan women?
No, you like white girls.
Really?
That's what Tony said.
Think about it.
Well, he did, yes, but he didn't.
Okay.
Just shut up.
Anyway, to start off the TNA show, we have Sting, Kurt Angle, and Samoa Joe come out for an interview segment. Basically, it builds up to Angle calling out Mr. Anderson.
Anderson.
And basically, he's asking, why are you with these guys? Are you with them? Are you with us? Anderson explains that when he was getting jumped by aces and eights, nobody helped him. Why should he help them?
Perfect asshole.
Exactly. And you know about perfect assholes. You've licked quite a few. Anyway, a decent opener for the show, which was followed by an even better match. The first match of the night was Zima Ion versus Kenny King. Now, Kenny King came out, had some really innovative kick maneuvers. Zima Ion and him, I think they worked really well against each other. Their styles meshed really good.
I was impressed with this match. I would say it was probably the match of the night. Kenny King is really coming to his own, and he's really actually looking like a true superstar.
And I definitely agree. Kenny King, he has the look, he has the size, the ability, and I think he has the it factor. Not Bobby Roode, but he has the it factor that something draws you into watching Kenny King.
The next match was a mixed tag match, which I'm not really a fan of those too much. This one wasn't worked too bad. Jesse and Tara versus Miss Tessmacher and
Bigger Robbie T. You know, I think out of the match, the guy that was highlighted the most was Robbie T. He had some awesome power moves. He dominated the match. They teased Robbie T and Robbie E breaking up with, at the end, he did his little dance again, which kind of made Robbie E a little bit jealous. But the thing I didn't like about it is Robbie T is a monster wrestler, and they're kind of giving him even more of a goofy gimmick than he already has, which, in my opinion, is going to put him in the Brodus Clay area, where you're this goofy wrestler that doesn't. That should be a monster, but isn't.
I like the powerbomb he used to finish the match, though. I mean, that was very impressive.
Oh, no, like I said, in the match, he was the highlight of the match. And that's saying a lot for Robbie T, because he's not the greatest in-ring talent.
Well, I think the time he spent with the company is actually, people are working with it behind the scenes. They got to be, because they got to see a superstar in the making. If you look at Robbie T, you see money. He's like a bigger Dave Bautista.
Okay.
Go your word, Batista shirts, obviously.
I agree with you. I think he's a good guy, and I think he's someone that they can build on. Now, speaking of guys they can build on, our next match is a gut check segment. Now, it's a little bit different now. They've changed it from one guy wrestling an already established wrestler to two gut check wrestlers, and one of them's going to get the contract. Now, they didn't say that it would definitely go to the winner. It said that they would go up for gut check next week. Now, the match was Brian Cage versus Jay Bradley.
I thought it was an excellent match. Both guys worked good against each other. It wasn't too long, but it wasn't a short match. But they gave them both a time or a chance to showcase a majority of their ability.
Now, one thing that I know that you said that you liked, that I know you want to hit on here, is what did you think about the finisher?
I'm a big fan of the clothesline from hell. And
the lariat.
The lariat. He calls it the boomstick, I think it was.
Yeah. Which is a play off of Evil Dead, I would assume.
Exactly. The guy performed it perfect.
It wasn't a fisherman's suplex.
I was waiting on that. Anyways, it was a well worked match, and dude worked great as a heel.
They both had something bankable. There's the question next week of which one of these guys is going to get the contract, because they both look good, and they both look like they deserve to be on the roster. Now, speaking of the roster, let's go into our question of the week from last week. Now, The question of the week was simple. Who do you think will be the MVP of 2013 in TNA? Now we got an answer from one of our friends. This is from Joshua Adams, 1044. I hope this is the year of James Storm. It would be nice to see Bobby Roode or A-Double. Just please, I hope Hardy leaves. Pretty blunt to the fact right there. I think there's a lot of people that agree with your opinion that Hardy's act in TNA is stale. Who do you think is going to be the MVP in TNA this year?
I've been giving this a lot of thought all week, and I'm hoping, and you might give me shit over this, or might not, Christopher Daniels. I think the guy deserves a title run. The guy's been with the company since pretty much day one. The guy has showed his value in gold. And in an interview this past week, he's actually talked about his goal before he retires is to be a world champion in the company.
It's a nice selection. I'm going to go with somebody that's pushed nearer to the top of the roster. Now, I'm not saying that Daniels doesn't deserve it. I think Bully Ray is going to be the MVP of the year.
You're voting for Bully Ray? What a shock.
Well, if you look at it, he's in the angle with Hulk Hogan right now. He's wrestling. He has a somewhat beef with Aces and Eights, which we'll talk about later, that they build up even more. The guy's been in main events all 2012, showed that he could work main event style, and I just think this is a year Bully Ray finally gets a singles title.
Well, how ironic is it that both guys we picked have already had a 20-year career and haven't been the main singles wrestler in their company?
Well, but can you argue with Bully Ray? I mean, he's a guy.
Well, I think both of them are. If either one of those two guys became champion, I wouldn't be disappointed.
Now, our question of the week for this week, talking about the segment we just talked about, which of the two guys, Brian Cage or Jay Bradley, do you think is going to be the gut check winner? Let us know what you think. Hit us up on our Twitter, put it on our Facebook, put it down where?
Down there.
Slap the porpoise. Put it right down there in the comments, and we'll talk about what you guys think next week, and we'll also add our opinion to it as well. Now, coming back after the break, after the gut check segment, we had Joseph Parks come out to the ring, wanting to talk to Hulk Hogan. The first time we see old Thunderlips in the night. Now, basically, he says, I've been training Hulk, and I just want my one match. I just want my one match.
Look, brother, it took me 2 years to train under Matsuda, brother. And he stretched me all over the place, brother. You're supposed to go, Hulk, Hulk, Hulk.
Your Hulk Hogan's just as bad as your Teddy Long.
No, I think my Hulk Hogan's at least a little better than Teddy Long.
Anyway, both of them are terrible.
You're terrible.
Basically, Hogan says, I'm too busy for this bullshit. So many words. Says, go ahead, you can have whatever you want. So Joseph Parks is wrestling, I think it's Devon.
It's Devon for the television title at the pay-per-view.
At the pay-per-view, which I expect him to go. Joseph Parks leaves the ring ecstatically. Brooke comes on the screen, says, Hulk, or Daddy, stay in the ring. I got to talk to you.
It's the $1,000 princess. It's coming out to the ring.
So Brooke heads out after commercial, confronts Hulk Hogan about why is Mark, a.k.a. Bully Ray, suspended, and is he going to unsuspend him and let him go? Hogan basically says no. Brooke walks away sad at the end with a pouty face.
Pouty face.
But, which sets up more again at the end of the show.
I don't know. I just wasn't really happy with that.
Okay. Well, our next match of the night was, we'll leave it at that. Our next match of the night...
Oh, well, the whole Hogan. I'm sorry.
It threw you off, didn't it?
It did.
Our next match of the night was Bobby Roode and Austin Aries, which was led up by an awesome backstage segment where they were trying to one-up each other. And they came out against James Storm and Jeffrey Nero Hardy.
I like the segment they had before the match. It kind of reminds you of Kaz and Daniels, but if they're working against each other.
Yeah. I thought it was awesome, too. It was kind of... You know what it reminded me of is Austin and Angle when they were trying to fight for Vince McMahon's love. But this was a little different. I thought it was worked really well. I liked the way that Austin and Bobby both tried to up up each other even the match. They basically did the same moves and then would tag each other out.
Mm-hmm.
I like the outside interference by Kaz and Daniels, distracting James Storm, keeping that feud going. So Aries basically had to take the beat down from the two guys, who then fought over the world championship. I thought it was an entertaining match. I mean, it's not match of the year, it's not match of the night, but it's entertaining.
It was good for what it was.
Yeah. They all can't be 5-star classics. Sometimes you just need something that the fans smile about, and this was one of those matches that makes you smile.
Now, this next segment is not a match. It's something that really, you brought a lot of questions to it. Matt Morgan and Julie Ryan were making a little promo in the back, in some trailer or whatever the hell it was. And you look in the window, and it's Chavo and Hernandez, and they're looking in, saying, "Oh, look who's in there." So then they go in there, and they attack Morgan and Ryan from behind.
The question I had is, why are the faces attacking the heels from the behind? Shouldn't this be the opposite way? Shouldn't the heels be coming up from behind and attacking? I mean, that's how it's traditionally been. But this is TNA, so who knows? Maybe they flip. Maybe they did a double switch without telling anybody.
Exactly. You know how the writers are there.
Yeah.
Now, speaking of someone who's been double switched, you didn't know if he was face or heel for how many times. The next match...
You still don't.
You don't. Mr. Anderson versus Kurt Angle.
Well, it was supposed to be Anderson versus Angle. Anderson did a little thing playing like he was scared to get in the ring with him, which led to Knox, which is what they're calling Mike Knox. I don't know.
Hard knocks.
Who knows? But Knox came out and took a hard knock and hit Angle with the hammer. Knocked Angle out of the match. They brought up his neck injuries, and is this possibly another Kurt Angle neck injury? Which brought out
the Stinger.
It's showtime, folks.
Woo! And he calls out Mike Knox or Knox.
That was the worst woo ever.
Well, because I've never been a Sting fan. I'm sorry if I offend anybody. Anyways, and it was a match. Set up a match for Sting versus Knox.
I thought it was a decent match. I liked the way it was worked. I mean, Sting is limited in the ring at this point. The only thing I didn't like is Knox. They shouldn't have had Knox job his first match on TV.
No, they shouldn't have. They should have had the rest of the Ace and Eights come in and, create a ruckus.
Exactly.
Something. Make it a disqualification. But when Knox loses fair and square to a 50-year-old man in the middle of the ring, you're killing his push.
Exactly. And then after the match, Sting hits him in the hand with the hammer and threatens to hit him in the head, which brings out Aces and Eights, and they have Brooke Hogan in. And they said, "Go ahead. Don't do it, Sting. Don't do it."
Mm-hmm.
They're holding Brooke up. Basically Sting lets Knox go so they don't destroy Brooke, which brings out my MVP of the year,
Bully Ray.
And Bully comes and runs off Aces and Eights, collects Brooke, which brings out old
Thunderlips, brother.
That was easy right there. It's like doing a Mad Lib. You just leave a question mark out, and then Thunderlips just fits in.
It does.
At least that's what the booking's like.
Exactly. You know what? We have 15 minutes. This is Hogan and brushing his teeth. I don't know.
They did their thing. Hogan. I still don't trust you, brother. I don't know what you're up to. I don't know why you're up to this.
Well, you figure as many guys as Hogan stabbed in the back in the back room that he would trust anybody.
One thing I really thought was good about what Bully Ray said. He said, "I've been in the business 20 years, and I love this business. No one loves this business, or I love this business more than anything." And you could really tell, not only by how he was in the Dudley Boys, but since leaving the Dudley Boys and the rededication to his craft and changing his character as much as he has, and making a new character just as over as he was as Bubba Ray Dudley. I think it really showed. I was a throwaway line, don't get me wrong, but I liked the throwaway line.
Did it bring a tear to your eye?
It did a little.
Did it bring back your smile, Sean?
It did. If only he was wrestling in the bingo hall.
Dare to dream, my friend.
It's not there no more.
Dare to dream. Anyways, I thought the show was pretty good.
Well, we didn't catch the end part.
Well, I was getting to it, or you were getting to it.
Well, you were kind of wrapping up.
Oh, I'm sorry.
We had Bully talking, and basically He was trying to get Hogan's approval. He said, "You know what? Forget this, Hawk. There's only one thing I love more than wrestling, and that's you, Brooke."
Me?
And then Bully and a really terrible acting Brooke Hogan do your classic "Will you marry me" thing. She says yes. They make out in front of Hogan. Hogan looks like he's shitting his pants, not like he's pissed, in my opinion.
Well, he's got the pins. They hold it in there.
Either that or he had a Hulk Hogan wrestling rumbler up his asshole. But anyway, I digress.
Well, speaking of this wedding, it's going to take place next week.
Next week?
Can't wait to see that. We know how great wrestling weddings are.
Oh, this could be the best wedding since Uncle Elmer's.
We can only dream, folks.
Keep your fingers crossed. You know what'd be the shit?
What would be the shit?
If Bully Ray comes out in a white tuxedo with the feather in his hat.
Oh my god.
And while we're talking about it, our Hulk Hogan count of the week is at 2 Thunderlips. Oh.
And this goes to show you that he's not been in it but twice, and it was an excellent show. I wouldn't say excellent, but it was very good.
Yeah, it was a good show. Although the twice that he was in it, he was in for probably about 25 minutes together, which is still a quarter of the show, basically. But still, not bad. We said the sweet spot for the Hogan count is 2.
That's where
Anything more than 2, I think, is oversaturation with his character. Sometimes, we had one that he did 6 appearances on it.
I think the most we've seen him was 8.
Yeah, I think I think you're right. I didn't want to say that. I was thinking in my head.
I think 8
but
was
it
the
sounded
most.
wrong to me.
You know one thing, we don't like usually comparing the two shows, but in one comparison, would they use their person of authority, like with Raw, it's Vicky Guerrero. This past week on Raw, she was only on there one time, and that was good. Instead of having her in there every freaking segment. You don't need with this, you don't need the person of authority to be in every segment. It gets old. You don't want to see that. We didn't grow up watching that, and it's really ridiculous.
Some of us did. Some of us did. Some of our fans or friends or grew up in the Attitude Era. McMahon was on the show a lot.
Not as much as Hogan's been on here.
There were some that he was on a lot.
And Bischoff really
the higher power episodes he was on. He dominated the show.
But I guess with Hogan, you just get sick of seeing it. McMahon plays a great heel.
Hogan's 30 years of his ego now, and we're tired of the act. And I'm thinking that most of the fans of wrestling are tired of the Hogan act. I'm sure there are some Hogan fans still out there. You're still somewhat a Hogan fan. But to me, the act is just played out. The only evolution I've ever seen in the Hogan act is when he did the NWO version, and he hasn't evolved since then. Kind of like Sting. Sting hasn't really evolved since the late 90s. He's had some little tweaks. The Joker tweak, I thought that was good. But you look at guys that stay relevant. Guys like Kurt Angle, who's had quite a long career. He's tweaked and
we were talking about that during the show. You had the funny Kurt, and then you had the badass Kurt.
Yeah, and you've had everything in between. You've had the main event mafia Kurt. He's done a dichotomy of different aspects of his character. Where Hogan's either say your prayers, eat your vitamins, or the NWO version, which is even cornier.
Exactly. Another guy that don't really change up his character too much is Anderson. But the thing is, they don't give him enough television time to really get into the character.
The one thing I said to you while we were watching it is, if this Aces and Eights, which at this point has become terrible and just boring and drawn out way too much, if this is all a platform for Anderson's character to be relaunched better, I'm happy for it. If not, then it's just wasting our time.
It is.
But basically, I think that's about all I got to say about the show. Is there anything you want to add?
That's it, my friend.
What would you give it out of 5? What would you say it is?
2 3/4.
I'd say it's a solid 3. Not great, not terrible. For a go-home show for the pay-per-view, I expected a little bit more. but maybe my expectations are too high. It is TNA.
The one thing, okay, yeah, I'll give it a 3 just because they didn't let Hardy get over his 2 opponents. Because, honestly, when you do that, you're just giving a pay-per-view away.
There you go. But that's all I got to say. My name is George Coles.
I'm Gary Rhodes.
And this has been Heel Heat.